Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first class of CMA Final Law, Corporate and Economic Laws. Why are you saying, ma'am, it to be the first class? Because in the last class, we haven't started with any syllabus, nothing. All we had was the introduction, how I'm going to teach, what you have to do, what you don't have to do, introduction to law, and that is it, right? So today we are going to start with corporate and economic laws. Now, I hope everyone is excited, everyone is ready with the materials I told you. So, you should be having two copies, you should have an highlighter. And of course, you should have some basic pens. You don't need very colorful pens, but of course, the basic blue black you should be sitting with, or even if it's just one pen, it's completely fine. Okay. So, you should have a highlighter, two copies, and a pen, right? Now, what are we going to do is we have to prepare according to are exams, right? So the first focus will always be exams. The second focus will be the practical learning, will be the professional grooming and everything, right? So the first focus will always be exams, and that is why we know that our preparation has to be two ways. We have to prepare for the MCQs and we have to prepare for the subjective questions also. There will be 15 MCQs in the paper and the subjective questions. Probably you can say 7 mark of each question, or if it is not subdivided into parts, right? So that is how it is, right? Whenever we are preparing, I am going to make you write certain things. You have to scribble certain things. That is going to be in the question answer copy. When I talk about MCQs, there are certain terms that I make you write, certain things I make you highlight. And of course, we have the appendix, we have the chart book through which you learn a lot of things which are essential to crack MCQs. You get my point? We have case based MCQs also that we'll practice, but whenever we are studying something, we have to study from two perspectives. That okay, how MCQ could be framed in this situation, what can be the subjective question. If you keep in mind this thing, then our learning journey is going to be very smooth. Now, when I say corporate and economic laws, because we are starting with corporate laws and we already know what law is, what is corporate? What is corporate? You must have heard about the term body corporate. Any corporate is body corporate. And we also have heard of a term about or company. So are they same things, corporate and company, or are they different? If they're different, what is the difference? I know most of you must be knowing this, but still I know many students, even coming at the final level, they're slightly confused. So let me clear this confusion. I'm talking about body corporate. Body corporate is defined in Companies Act also. But first of all, in general, body corporate is a wider term. I want everyone to please start writing this with me. You don't have to wait for my instructions every now and then. Okay, write this. So, because this is not a class that I'm taking, it is from some school or maybe even in college, you might have studied it this way. But this is a professional study that we're starting, and you have to make professional judgments. So, the first judgment that you make over here is whether I should write or I shouldn't write. If at all you want to be the safe side, keep writing unless it's not distracting you. There's a very serious concept going on and I'm trying to explain you something, but you're busy writing, then stop it and listen to me. Okay, get it? So when I have started writing, you also start writing. Now, how is it going to help? Like, are you suggesting that there could be any question, what is body corporate? No, there won't be any question, what is body corporate? Yes, there could be an MCQ. Okay, but then to understand, because at every point of time you will see body corporate company, so you should understand and be able to establish the difference. Okay, so body corporate is a wider term, and if I sum up their relationship, Okay. If I sum up their relationship, I can say that all companies, all companies are body corporate, but all body corporates, all body corporates are not companies. Why, ma'am? Why, ma'am? See, when I say body corporate, it means any entity. Any entity means what? Any entity. Like we have partnership firm, we have proprietorship firm, we have any type of, like we have LIC, we have SBI, we have this entity, we have that entity, right? So any entity which has features, with features like artificial person. So the first thing that you have to check is we are talking about any entity which is an artificial person and not a natural person. So we are not talking about, we are not body corporates. Okay, we can never be body corporates because we are natural person. Okay. Now body corporate is an artificial person. So artificial person, perpetual succession. That means it could never be a proprietorship firm because they don't have this feature of perpetual succession, right? Separate legal entities. It couldn't be partnership firm because they are not a separate legal entity in the eyes of law, right? So if we have any entity which has all these features, that is going to be called as a body corporate. Now, can you give an example? Of course, I am here to give you a lot of examples. Example: LIC is not a company. Why is it not a company? Why is it not a company? Because it is not registered under Companies Act. Under Companies Act. But LIC is a body corporate. Why? Because it has features of body corporate. Simple. So here we sum up the whole concept of body corporate. You get my point? That means we can say, if I'm talking about any company, you talk about any company, Reliance Industries Limited, it could be Ambuja Siemens, whatever it could be any company. They're all body corporates. Why? Because they have features of body corporate. They are artificial person, perpetual succession, separate legal entity, everything, right? So they have features of that. So they are a body corporate. But all the body corporates are not registered in the Companies Act, so they will not be called as a company. So we have LIC, we have SBI, we have all these called as statutory corporation, which are a body corporate but not a company. If I take you through the definition given of body corporates, you can say that it includes companies registered outside India but excludes cooperative society. This draws my attention to company. Now you know that body corporates and companies are two different things. Okay. And we will someday come back to this and I will give you more clarity about this, but not right now. Okay. I hope whatever I have told you right now, that you have understood. Okay, so we will come back to this later. Now let's begin with Companies Act 2013. Okay. Now, Companies Act 2013, this act is a very slow moving act because it has not come into the picture just like that, right? It is like some provisions are notified on this date, then some on some later date, then some on some other later date, right? Okay, ma'am, we get it. So, Companies Act, basically, you introduced us about law in the last class. So, we remember how law, how bill drafted, how it becomes an act, who has the powers and everything. Companies Act, when I say it is a central act, that means it is centrally applicable to whole of India. Yes, ma'am. That means Parliament has got the power to make this act. So it is an act of Parliament. Yes. When did it come into picture? It got the assent of President. Assent of President on 29th August. 29th August 2013. Then sections notified, few sections notified on 30th August. And then I cannot say the entire act was notified on 30th August because it has been notified in parts. You get it? Now, one thing you have to remember over here is this. When did it get the president's assent? In fact, this also I could say. But then 29th August is more important date. Why you have to remember it? From examination perspective, because of MCQs. Although this is a very basic MCQ and not usually asked, but it can be asked ever. Okay, that is first thing. Now, this is an act of parliament. This is an act of parliament. If I ask you how many sections are there in Companies Act, immediately the response would be 470 sections, ma'am. Yes. But ideally, there are not 470 sections. But if I reframe the question and I ask you, the act came up with how many sections, then you can say 470 sections, right? So ideally, there are 470 plus additional amended sections minus the deleted sections, right? So ideally, we have 29 chapters. The act came up with 29 chapters divided into 470 sections, and then we have 7 very important schedules. Plus a lot of rules given or notified by central government through MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Yes, everyone knows this? Okay, ma'am. So what other things we have to remember from MCQ perspective? Well, all these things you should remember from MCQ perspective. Okay. Now, there is one more thing. Ma'am, you are saying that Companies Act got President's assent in 2013. What about the companies which existed prior to this? Were many companies. Undoubtedly, there were many companies. If we take, like, my favorite example of companies is Reliance Industries Limited, because anything and everything I want, I get it. Right? So, Reliance Industries Limited, I think it dates back to 1973. It was founded by Dhirubhai Ambani. Now, at that particular point of time, there was no company law. There wasn't Companies Act 2013, but definitely there was some company law. Right? Okay, ma'am. So what was that? Well, if I take you through the history, and what you have to remember from exam perspective is, there was Indian Companies Act, you had 1866, you had 1882, you had 1913. This is important. Why? Why is this important? Because it was the first structured company law in India. First structured company law in India. Then you also had a very famous Companies Act 1956, and then came Companies Act 2013, which is the current company law that we have right now. That means today, if you want to form any company, all you have to see is Companies Act 2013, right? Why? Because that is the existing current law. Now, if I tell you what is a company, you will ask me what is a company? Then company means any company which is registered under the act. So registration is mandatory. If you're not registered, you're not a company. How do you do that registration? The entire process is given in the act. So how am I supposed to do the registration? Fine, we get it. It is given under the act. What if I'm not registered under this act? Like Reliance Industries Limited. They cannot be registered under this act. I mean, when this act came into picture, all the existing companies had to re-register themselves under the act because somewhere they might have registration in the prior company laws. No. So this act says that a company which is registered under the act or previous company law is a company. And all the provisions of Companies Act 2013 will be applicable on these companies. So when I'm saying history, it is nothing but previous company law. It's nothing but previous company law. Okay, ma'am. But why company? Why company? How is company important? My dear, company is very, very, very important. Imagine you have achieved something, or it's your birthday, or maybe you want to do a bachelor's party, you are getting married very soon, um, and you want to go for a bachelor's party, right? Now, what if your father accompanies you? Or for the girls, maybe your mother accompanies you, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong that you're doing, but it's all about the vibe that you want to enjoy, like you want to relax, you want to be with your friends. They all hold a different importance in your life, right? So when it comes to family time, of course you would want your parents to be there, no offense to that, but sometimes it's like, come on, this is the worst thing that can happen on a bachelor's party. I mean, I'm going with my father, like maybe 50 60 years later the time might so come because the generations are changing, there's the generation gap is reducing, but right now there are four friends who want to just chill with a beer. They don't want their fathers to join. Yes, so company matters, right? And why do you call it a company? Why is it a company? Like if you're going out with your friend, he or she is a company, right? Not registered in a Companies Act, but he or she is a company. Why a company? Because you both have come together for a common objective. You both have come together for a common objective. That means when I say company, there is a meaning and there is a definition. Definition under section 2 clause 20 of Companies Act 2013, which says that company means company registered under the act or previous company laws, which we have discussed. But when I say the meaning, it means there are people who have come together. That means voluntary association. They have not come together forcefully but out of their own will. Voluntarily, the two friends or the four friends have come together and they have a common objective, that's to just chill on a glass of beer, right? So they have a common objective. That is basically called as a company. But when you come together voluntarily for a common objective to do business, then that is called as a company. And to run a company, you must get yourself registered under Companies Act 2013 because that's the only way to do business. Otherwise, you cannot do business. What are you saying, ma'am? Come on, like if I am a group of maybe uh, 10 friends, right, and we want to start a business, that means we need to do this registration process and everything. Can't we just buy some place, maybe do some manufacturing and sell the products the way we want to? Well, yes, you can, but then you have to give it some name. It has to be given some identity. What type of identity, ma'am? Maybe you could just solely, if you are doing some business, it could be a proprietorship. You four friends, you are coming together, it could be a partnership, right? So there are different forms of business organization. There are different forms of business organization and you have to choose one. Okay, so let's now look at a video where we can understand something about company in a better way, right? So it's an animated video. Of course, it was in Hindi, so I have muted that. And now I'm going to take you through the video, right? Okay. So see, Here we have two characters. One character in the red shirt over here, as you can see, is the father, and this particular person is the white shirt, is the bunny, right? So bunny is highly frustrated, like everyone is scolding him that why are you not doing any work, you're useless, etc., etc. So bunny decides that okay, now I'm going to start my own business. So he has first option. Option number one is that he can start a proprietorship business. So he started a proprietorship business and he puts in 1 lakh, any business it could be, right? Now what happens, the it's not sufficient, so he looks at honest bank and he says that why not let me take a loan from that bank. So bunny took a loan of 5 lakhs from honest bank to expand his business. So here is a business in which he has put 1 lakh, and then there are 5 lakhs more which has been put by the bank. But what happens? Heavy losses, right? So he's like, oh, I am now devastated. What do I do? So basically, the whole point is when there is heavy losses, Bunny invested 1 lakh, but he has to repay 5 lakhs to the bank. Why? Because his business and him. That means his assets, his business assets, his liability, his business liabilities. They're all the same. Why? Because proprietorship is not a separate entity in the eyes of law. It's all the same. It's all the same. So he's like, no, this option is not working. Moreover, one fine day he was just walking and boom. So there's an accident. Bunny died, business dies. Why? Because proprietorship is again not perpetual succession. Right now, we have not analyzed the in depth meaning of all these fancy terms, but somehow you know this, right? Okay, so he tried and wanted to explore the other option. What is that other option? The other option is to go for partnership. So he started now partnership business with Honey, and both of them contributed 50,000 each. But what happens? Again, you meet the same things: loan again, loss again, liability again, because again, there is unlimited liability even in partnership, right? So basically, he has come to us and we have to now give him the solution, right? So we talk about companies. So you saw how is it important, like there are many advantages of forming a company. So if you want to choose a form of business organization, probably company is one of the best form of business organization that we have. So there are many features which distinguishes company from other forms of business organization, and here we are going to write our first answer, although this is not an answer writing teaching session or anything like that. But then the first probable question, a subjective question which may be formed is, what are the features of a company? However, it's not frequently asked. It was asked like dated back in times. Now it is not asked by the institute, but you never know. So what are the features of a company? Okay, so when I say answer, since it is a direct question, you don't have to waste your time writing following are the features of the company as given under Companies Act 2013. Bullshit. There are no features given under Companies Act 2013. We only extracted from the general meaning of the company. Okay, point number one. Point number two, you are not getting any marks awarded for writing these in between lines. So instead, we will focus and save our time and energy for writing the core things which are needed and which fetches marks. So straight away, you can start with the bullets with A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you write, but I would still suggest and advise the bullets. Why? Because A, 1, Roman 1, 2, 3, they all confuse the examiner, because sometimes the questions are asked in parts. So you have the question 1A and again you're writing A. So it creates some type of confusion. Okay. So it's advisable that you start with writing bullet. Now, the first one, the first beautiful feature. You tell me one thing. Often we see the news here and there that the son of this particular celeb was found doing drugs. Okay. Now, if we see and notice any such news, do you think is going to be arrested? Is it going to be the celebrity or the son of celebrity? Of course, son, ma'am. Why would celebrity? In fact, sometimes celebrities are going to, for their own image, they might even disown the child that no, I don't know who the person is. Of course, they have worked hard to give birth to that child, but then the child is different and the father is different. We are not like one person. Often we hear a lot of songs and all, two souls, right? Yeah, one soul, rather, two bodies, one soul, right? And he is my soulmate, she is my soulmate, we are just one. How the world should treat us as one? Well, the world is not going to treat you as one. Why? Because you're two different persons. So if one has to go to jail, if one is liable to penalty, it's no way the other can compensate and the other person can go to jail, or both of them will go to jail. No, nothing like that is that sort is going to happen. That simply gives us a concept, which is that these are separate persons. That means they have a separate identity. Separate identity in the eyes of law. So separate legal entity, or they have an independent existence. Yes or no? So the first feature of company is independent corporate existence. Independent corporate existence. That means, ma'am, this is how we are going to write this. Is it? That is it? No. Now you have to elaborate this point, which I'm not going to do it for you for sure, because this is something which we are reading the basics. You have already read this before, and I'm already giving you time more than required for these basic, very basic concepts. But because they are the initial classes, of course, I'm going to give you all the time in the world. Okay, so later on, for the easy concepts, we will be a little quick, and for the difficult concepts we will go way more detailed than this. Okay, so don't worry on that part. Now, independent corporate existence, when I say, what do you mean by that? Well, unlike Bunny in our example, if he had formed a company, if company takes a loan, I have started a company. I cannot start a company just on my own. When I'm talking about a private company, to start a private company, we need two people. So me and you. Okay, I saw very bright prospect in you. This is such a fine student of mine who's so talented, so intellectual. He is definitely somebody who's going to take this business to the next level, and he has a great business idea. What I have to do, all I have to do is invest some, maybe 5 lakhs, and he's going to invest only 50,000. So we two are going to be the shareholders, and we'll start the company. So that is how we did it. So I have invested maybe 3,50,000 and you have invested 50,000. You also have shares, I also have shares. You are also a shareholder, I am also a shareholder. Together we have started this company, and now we thought that 4 lakhs not sufficient, because we want to set up a factory, we want to buy so many raw material, we want to do this, we want to do that. Now we went to the bank and we asked for loan. Give us loan, give us loan. The bank gave us a loan of 10 lakhs, right? So this is a company. Bank has given 10 lakhs. We have given 4 lakhs to this company. This company is formed by us. Who is managing the company? Us. So we are the shareholders who have formed the company. We are the directors who are running the company. Yes or no? But then company bought a lot of raw material, and then the raw material could not be sold because we did not have good marketing techniques, or maybe the demand for that particular product dropped down, right? There could be a lot of cases, right? Some natural calamity came, etc., etc. So the company ran into financial losses. Now the bank people are like, repay my 10 lakh rupees. The company says, I don't have 10 lakh rupees. I cannot sell my raw material. It's all scrap. It's now expired. I have to discard it, and all I'm going to fetch is some penny thousands. How do I repay your 10 lakhs? I bought the company is saying I bought the raw material worth rupees 14 lakhs, and all I'm left is with 10,000. So the company has ran into financial difficulties. I cannot repay your loan. What will the bank do? Bank will come to us, you formed the company, it is your company now, it is your responsibility to repay my loan. I said, no, we're not going to do that. Why? Because company has taken a loan and company will repay the loan, because company is different, we are different. Company has its own independent corporate existence. Yes or no? Company defaults on something, company will pay the penalty. Company wants to buy a land, company buys the land in its own name. So as soon as the entire process of registration is completed, that means when a company is incorporated, an artificial legal entity is formed, and this entity is distinct, it is separate from its members who form it or from its directors who run it. Yes. Who are subscribers, who are members, who are shareholders, who are debenture holders, who are directors. If you're still confused with this, don't worry. I'm going to clarify each and every basic doubt about it, right? So you will have this clarity. Don't worry on that part. But right now, I hope you get it what you're supposed to write in this point of independent corporate existence. So when a company is incorporated, a new artificial legal entity is formed, which is distinct from its members who form it. Okay, and the company is going to be responsible for its own defaults, for its own penalties. Fine. So you have to elaborate this point and write like this. Okay. That is, of course, your homework. Okay. Now, there is a famous case law of Salomon versus Salomon and Company, which you probably have read this before. Now, at this level, at this final level, do you need to learn this? No need to learn this case law, first of all. No need to learn this case law. There was a person named as Salomon who had his proprietorship business. Now he formed a company and gave the business to the company, and in turn he became the shareholder of the company, and he also took some debentures, right? Because he has given a business worth rupees, let's say this much. So in exchange he will take the cash, or he'll take the shares, or he'll take the debentures, whatever. So he took that shares and debentures. Now the company ran into financial difficulties, and then there was a time for repayment to the creditors. So whenever a company runs into financial difficulty and has to be shut down, has to be liquidated, there is a hierarchy or the order in which payment can be made, right? There is an order in which payment can be made. Like if we talk about our families, if there is financial difficulty in the family, right, we see the priorities. Okay, so if new clothes have to be bought and there is financial difficulty in the family, maybe it will be first for the children, right? Then we'll take care of the grocery needs and all that. If it is a festival, maybe all that puja needs and everything. And thereafter, if money is left, we will see what else is required, and then maybe later on. So that is the hierarchy or the priority. Here also, it works the same way. So first of all, you will make payment to your creditors, to your secured creditors, to your employees who are working for you. And then if there is anything which is left, then you take it. You means the shareholders who have actually invested in the company. So here Salomon, he took the money as a debenture holder also. And everyone shouted that it is his own company. How is he taking the money before us? So the court said no. The company is different, he is different. So in the capacity of shareholder, he has to wait. In the capacity of debenture holder, he'll take, right? So that brought basically the concept of independent corporate existence, but you're not supposed to learn the case law. You just have to elaborate one line and write about it. Is that clear? Yes, everyone? Okay. The next one is the most wonderful feature that I've been talking about of a company, is that limited liability. That means there is a limit on my liability, right? Just as I explained you the case of loan a little prior, when we were talking about the independent corporate existence, that a bank gave a loan of 10 lakh rupees. Now the bank can't come to me. Bank can go back to the company n number of times and say, did you earn any profit? Give me my loan. You have to repay. This is the principal amount. This is the interest amount. So bank can keep on telling company. So company has to pay, no matter If the loan was of 10 lakh, then the interest amounted to 15, then maybe 20, then maybe 30. There is no limit. There is no limit on the liability of the company. Company has to pay whatever liability comes in its plate, in its plate, right? Irrespective of whatever they have, right? So the liability of the company is still unlimited, but the liability of the members of the company is limited. This is a beautiful privilege that comes along with this corporate form of organization. So it's one of the beautiful advantages that one can ever have is limited liability. Now, when you want to form a company, then you can decide, right? So if you want to form a company, there are three types of companies that you can form. One is unlimited company. Yes, there is also an unlimited company concept, but that's hardly used because then the whole essence of limited liability would go and vanish. So we're not talking about that, right? When I'm talking about limited company, that is usually prevalent and that is only formed. Okay. So limited company, when I talk about, this could be limited by shares, it could be limited by guarantee. Okay, so when I agree that, okay, I want to buy these many shares of this particular company, that means if one share price, if the share price of one share is 1,000 and I agree to buy two shares, that means I agree to pay 2,000 to this particular company. Now, if I have paid only 1,000, that means 1,000 is unpaid that I have to pay. That means my liability is only that unpaid amount. That is 1,000. So whenever we register a company, we are asked, the company is a limited company or an unlimited company. So we are registering a company with limited liability. That means the liability of the members will be limited, will be restricted. Okay. So whenever we have formed a company, the liability of the members is limited. When it is by shares, example, if share price is 10, it could be either fully paid shares, or it could be partly paid shares. Just a second. So let's say the share price is 10 rupees per share and Mr. X agrees to buy 100 shares of this particular company. That means he has to pay 100 into 10 because he is buying 100 shares and every share price is 10 rupees, right? So that means he has to pay 1,000. It could be 1,000 crores also, right? So 1,000 to the company. Now, let's say when I'm talking about fully paid shares, that means when we are buying the shares, we have to pay the entire price of rupees 10. So it's fully paid shares. There is no credit, nothing like that, right? That means here, Mr. X has paid entire 1,000. So his liability is now going to be nil. Why? Because there is no unpaid amount left. But when it is partly paid shares, maybe he has paid only 5 per share because the company has called only 5. Now the company will be making a final call of 5 someday later when they need money, right? So here he has paid only 500. So his liability over here is going to be 500, which is the unpaid amount. So when I say limited liability, that means the liability of members of the company is going to be limited to the amount unpaid on shares held by them, right? Or the amount that they have undertaken as guarantee in case of a guarantee company. What is a guarantee company? Sometimes we don't have, we have guarantee company with share capital. Sometimes it is guarantee company without share capital. That means we have just opened a company, we have not contributed anything, there is no share capital, nothing. So how is it running, ma'am? Where does it get funds from? Well, maybe the funds are being getting from some loan, some other sources. Now, why? Why people will give money? Because they believe in the business. They believe in the people who are managing the business. So they're giving money. And there is somebody who has taken a guarantee like me. So I am the member of the company, but it's a company without shareholding. So I don't own any shares. I have just given guarantee. What guarantee? If the company runs into financial losses and goes into liquidation, and the assets are insufficient to meet the liabilities, then I will contribute an amount up to 5 lakhs. That means I've taken a guarantee of 5 lakhs. That means what is my liability? 5 lakhs. It cannot be more than that. That means my liability is limited, is restricted. Is restricted to the value of shares or the amount of guarantee. You get it? Okay. Next is, exactly this is what you will write in the topic of limited liability. The next one is perpetual succession. Perpetual succession. Now the point is, what do you mean by perpetual succession? You go and ask your grandfather, grandmother, right? Have they heard of LIC? Even if you have somebody older than that generation, of course, you can go and ask them. They'll say, of course, I know, right? That means LIC was there since generations, since ages. LIC is still there. Do you think the founder of LIC? Well, LIC is comes under the public sector, and that also I will explain you once we go through. But in general, let me just ask, the person who conceived the idea of LIC, is he still there? No. Reliance Industries Limited is a company which was formed by Dhirubhai Ambani. Is he still there? No, but the company is there. Yes or no? That means it doesn't matter who takes the place. Sir Ratan Tata, such a wonderful person. Do you think he's still there? No. But are the companies running well? Yes. Why? Because there are different people who are managing the company. So the death of the member does not affect the company. Today the shares are with me. I am the investor. Tomorrow I may sell it to somebody else, or it may be transmitted to somebody else, and that particular person becomes a shareholder. So members come, they go. There are so many companies, 100 years, 1,000 years, right? So the people who have formed the company, they're no more here, but still the company is going on and on and on and on and on, right? Now, we get it, ma'am. That means, obviously, when we're talking about a company like Reliance Industries Limited, there are so many members, so many shareholders. It doesn't matter. Today the shares are with this person, tomorrow the shares are with other person. It is being sold to this, it is being sold to that. Somebody dies, the shares get transferred to this. Yes, we get it. But now, what if, listen to me carefully, what if there are only and only two friends? Two friends formed a company, right? And after forming the company, they thought that we have worked very hard and we want to chill and we want to relax. So they went on a road trip to Ladakh. And that too in extremely rainy season. So from Manali to Ladakh, they're on the roads, right? Or maybe you can even take the roads of Gangtok, right? So the roads are very narrow. Plus, when we are talking about the season, rainy season, there are very common landslides which may happen. So somehow that happened, and in an accident, both of them died. Now, what will happen to the company? They were the two members, they were the directors of the company. What will happen? What will happen? Don't you think it brings an end to the company also? Well, not technically. Well, not technically, because when I'm talking about a proprietorship business, if the proprietor dies, it's the end of the business. Even though his business goes to the legal successor, right? He can also run the business, but now he can run the business in his name. He cannot run the business in his father's name. But here, when the shares are transmitted or transferred to the legal here, right, to the son or whatever, they become the member and the company continues in its own name. So that exactly is the concept of perpetual succession. So membership changed. They'll elect new directors or they will become the directors. There will be appointment. There will be everything. But the company is going to go on and on and on. So what do I write in the point of perpetual succession? It means that the membership may change from time to time, but it does not affect the company's existence. Members may come and go, but the company goes on forever. This is what you are going to write and elaborate the point of perpetual succession. Got it? Okay. The next one, separate property as separate owner. As separate owner. That means what, ma'am? See, when I say that, okay, there are two friends who have formed the company, that means the two friends have given 1 lakh to the company. So company has 2 lakhs that belongs to the two friends. Company took this 2 lakh and went out to buy a land. Ma'am, who gets a land in 2 lakh rupees? I mean, come on, you could have said at least 20 lakhs. That is the bare minimum. Not even bare minimum. I would say you will get a land of 20 lakhs in some far, far, far away rural land, right? So let's take it 20 lakhs. So I gave 10 lakhs. He gave 10 lakhs. The company got 20 lakhs and with our money has bought a land. Does that land belong to me? Does that land belong to us? Are we co-owners of that land? The answer is no. Why not? Why are we not joint owners of this particular company's property? It has been bought from our money. Well, company is a separate person. Company being a separate person owns, disposes, enjoys property in its own name. So whenever company wants to invest its money, it will invest its money in its own name. That's a section that you read later on. Okay, so we have a beautiful section, investment in its own name, which you have to read. It is there, a part of your syllabus. Okay, you get that? Fine. So the property is going to be in the name of the company only and no individual membership is going to affect it. We are not the owners of this. We may call sometimes ourselves as the joint owner of company's property, but ideally we are not. Okay, ideally we are not. Get it? Okay. The next one is transferability of shares. Transferability of shares. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? Transferability means we can transfer it from one person to another, right? What can we transfer? Shares. Shares means what? Share is an asset for us. Yes. Why? Because it is going to give us money in future. If I sell the share, I'm going to get money. So if I have 2 shares of Reliance Industries Limited, that means if the share price, let's say a hypothetical example, absolutely hypothetical, I don't even want to take the real price. Let's say it's 10,000. Okay. So 10,000 per share, and if I have 2 shares, that means I have invested 20,000 in that particular company, right? I have invested 20,000 in that particular company. Now, if I sell it, I'm going to get 20,000. If I'm in need of money, what do? I sell this to somebody else and I get 20,000. That means the shares are liquid assets. I'm immediately going to get it, right? I can sell it. They can be moved from one person to another. They can be transferred. How can they be transferred? According to the procedure which is being given. When it is a listed company, at the click, buy at 250, sell at 300. That's how bidding takes place in your demat account, and immediately you can, if you quote the price which is running, immediately what you can do is you can buy, you can sell, whatever you want to. If it is a listed company, if it is an unlisted company, then of course you have to look for person who is willing to buy. You have to look for that prospective buyer, and then there is an entire procedure of drafting a transfer deed, and then transfer can take place. Okay, secondly. Thirdly, if it is a private company, that means we two, you and me, okay, you and me, we formed a company. Now, I believed in you, you believed in me. You have 10 shares in the company, I have 10 shares in the company. You found a girlfriend. Okay, you found a girlfriend. Someday later, you will find, right? And you are like head over heels. So, So what happened is, you thought that as a gift I should transfer my shares to that girlfriend. Okay, fine. So you transfer without even asking me. Okay, so you transferred half of your shares to that particular girlfriend, and next day when we're sitting and we're discussing, we have a shareholders meeting, she also joins and she says, no, no, I disagree. I'm like, who is she and how is she supposed to disagree? It is our company. Who are you? Right? And you will also get offended. How is she speaking to my girlfriend like that? Okay, I agree, Shivangi ma'am is our mom, but then she has to respect that boundary. So at the end of the day, the point is that if it is a private company, you cannot transfer your shares like this. You can transfer your shares. It's not that there's a complete prohibition on transferability, but there is restriction. You have to ask. There is a procedure given in the articles, and according to that, you can do that. So, if it is a public company, the shares are freely transferable. If it is a private company, the shares are transferable subject to the restrictions as provided by the articles. But at the end of the day, the shares are such an asset which is movable and transferable from one person to another. It provides liquidity to the investor. It provides liquidity to the investor. Okay, the next one. Common seal. Common seal is nothing but the official signature of a company. Please write over here, if company has, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me just erase this and then I will write it. Okay. Please write this. Sign if company has common seal, if company doesn't have common seal. Okay, so if company has common seal, then affix common seal. If the company doesn't have common seal, then it will be one director plus CS shall sign. Or if the company does not have company secretary, there will be two directors who shall sign the document. Okay. We have different signing at later point of time also specified, but right now this is something that you should know. So earlier there was compulsory requirement of common seal. Now the requirement of common seal has been waived off. It is completely optional. So some companies choose to have a common seal, some companies don't have common seal. Okay, because it can be misused also. All that, it has to be kept in the safe custody here, there, etc., etc. But then ultimately it has been waived. So it is optional. Got it? Yes, everyone? Okay. Now we have, these are all the features that you are going to write if asked in examination, but there is one more point which you can write, and that is artificial person. Artificial person. What do you mean by artificial person? Person. Right. Person could be natural also, artificial also. When I say company, can the company buy its own land? Yes, so can we. Can the company file a suit against someone? Yes. That means the company has the capacity to file suit and be sued also. So can we. Right. Can the company do business? Yes. Can we do business? Yes. Can the company marry? No. Can the company see? No. Can the company have that citizenship? No. Can the company hear? No. So all the natural features which a person can do, of course, the company can't do. Right? Okay, so that was the very first question of features of company. I hope everyone has written it, and you are also supposed to elaborate the same. Okay, so let's come to our volume 1. This is basically the coverage of this particular chapter that we are reading. Companies Act 2013 has been divided into different chapters. 29 chapters, we know that, right? So Companies Act has different classification, right? Like we have chapter 1, which has only two sections, section 1 and section 2. Section 1 is short title, extent and commencement, and section 2 is definition. So we have the very first chapter, which is called as preliminary, right? Okay, and likewise we have chapters. Now we come to our ICMAI syllabus, wherein institute has given us something called as Companies Act under corporate laws, and they have divided the chapters differently. The first chapter here is companies, what am I writing? Companies formation and conversion. Okay, so in this, we have to read the basic concepts which are given in this first chapter preliminary. Then we have to read the process and the concepts of incorporation, which are given in the second chapter of incorporation. We also have some conversion of LLP, etc., which is given in section 366 of Companies Act. And then we have another few sections of a chapter called as chapter 22, Companies Incorporated Outside India. So we pick topics differently and we have put it in the first chapter according to ICMAI syllabus, that is companies formation and conversion. So this is covered in the very first chapter. You know the meaning of company now. We have discussed the definition also. We have discussed the general meaning also, not really needed to be learned. When we come to the basics, I have told you that this needs to be learned, right? These are some things that have to be learned from MCQ perspective. Administration part, I'm going to tell you a little later when I talk about applicability and extent of Companies Act. Well, it extends to whole of India. You should be knowing that. And this applicability I have not discussed yet. Right? Then we have straight away come to the characteristics of company, artificial person, separate legal entity, limited liability, perpetual succession, common seal, transferability of shares, and separate property as separate owner. Is that all clear? Great.